Shalom everyone, and we are learning this week Parashat Shemot. And that means that we're starting a new book, the book of Exodus, the book of Shemot, meaning in Hebrew, names, the book of names. So the book of Exodus is called the book of names. And that means that we are starting a period of 8 weeks from today that is called ShOVaVIM TaT, initials of the names of the parashot in the coming weeks. ShOVaVIM, initials of Shemot, Va'era, Bo, Beshalach, Yitro, Mishpatim, Truma, Tetzaveh. Which means during these 8 coming weeks, we are reading in the Torah every year about the story of the exile in Egypt and the redemption, the process of the redemption till the coming of the two tablets. And that is a very important topic, not because we need to remember historically this basic, powerful event that reformed the structure of humanity from the moment it happened some 33 centuries ago till today. We're not talking just about the significance of this historical event, but I'm going to read from Rabbi Ashlag's teachings. There's a notebook with it's called Otzrot HaSulam Al HaTorah, the treasures of the Sulam about the Torah, which it's a book that takes all the writings of Rabbi Ashlag on each parasha, not just from the Zohar, because in the Zohar we have it, and he starts the parasha of Shemot with Sod HaShOVaVIM, the secret of the weeks of ShOVaVIM, which means the weeks coming from today for the next 8 weeks. עניין גלות מצרים משמעותו שעבוד הקליפה על הקדושה. The whole concept of the Egyptians' exile, which means the exile into Egypt, means the concept of the dark side controlling, subjugating the holy side. And we know every human being has a journey. And this journey is the journey to overcome the dark side in our lives, which is basically in our personality, the perception of reality. Everything that we see about life has something to do with that concept, which means how do we get into freedom from the bondage of the dark side? What is the dark side? The moment we are born into a physical world, Rabbi Chaim Vital, the main student of the Arizal, Rabbi Isaac Luria, 16th century in Tzfat, in northern Israel, Rabbi Chaim Vital tells us that when we read about the story of these are the names of the children of Israel coming to Egypt, that's verse 1, chapter 1, in the book of Exodus. And he's asking the question, why does it say Habaim Mitzrayma, which is in Hebrew present continuous. It's not in past tense, but in present continuous. And he is explaining to us that when we want to understand what reality is about the physical reality, which is subjugating the soul, because the soul cannot soar, fly, know, be open to all what is good, as long the soul is subjugated to the physical body and the physical senses and the perception of the physical reality. However, the souls, when we speak about the Shemot Bnei Israel, the names of the children of Israel, these are the forces of the soul coming to Egypt, which means they keep coming, present continuous. They keep coming in to our body from the moment we are born. When we are born, as little babies, we don't have the whole soul inside us. As small the body is, also the soul is small. And as we grow up, gradually, more and more parts of our soul is descending into the physical body. Somehow that can be completed by the age of 12 to girls, 13 to boys. Still, it continues in the age of 20. And if we really do a spiritual, intense work, we are going to be able to bring in the spiritual forces of the soul into our body all our lives. So that's why it says the name of the game of every human being, and we see why. How do we know it's every human being? The name of the game is that the forces of the soul are coming into the body. The body is a narrow, a very narrow, dark place. In Hebrew, narrow, confining place is Meitzar, Mitzrayim. The Hebrew name for Egypt, Mitzrayim, means the narrow, confining place. Okay, so we're not talking about a history, something that happened in the past. Yes, it is. It is an event in the past, but the most important thing, how does that relate to our days, to our life today? So, if the name of the game is that we have a soul, the forces of the soul are coming to the body all the time, and they are subjugated to the physical senses, to the physical desires of the body, to selfishness, to narrow-mindedness. All of this is the dark side subjugating the holiness. ואילו עניין הגאולה הוא השבת היוצר על כנו. And the whole concept of redemption, which means those coming 8 weeks have a sense of redemption, and every year we have another opportunity to connect to the idea of redemption from another level, another aspect, expanding our ability to understand what does redemption really mean to each human being. And that is the gift that we get during these 8 weeks. And what does it mean? השבת היוצר על כנו. It's bringing the creator to his place. What does mean his place? בבחינת וראו כל עמי הארץ כי שם אדוני נקרא עליך ויראו ממך. Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 10. And all the nations of the earth will see that the name of God is upon you, and they will have awe of you. What does that mean? So we had a few weeks ago a whole class about what does it mean, an awe. And awe, says the Zohar, awe is experience when a person is connecting to completion. When we connect to something that is really complete, spiritually and physically, we experience awe. So, when we achieve that completion within, then all what's around us, including our body, behaves with awe, which means it's a kind of respect, awareness, and giving space instead of confinement. So here we have some really intense basic ideas of what does it mean to have redemption in the personal level and in the universal level to all the nations of the world. Because the story of Genesis inspired, affected, changed the life of billions of people till today. והנה התורה הקדושה היא נצחית, and the Holy Torah is eternal. גלות וגאולה נוהגים בכל הדורות ובכל הזמנים. Exile and redemption can be found every generation, every given time. Because that is, again, the story of humanity, the story of each one of us. Because we're here coming into a physical body, into a physical reality, being confined, being subjugated by belief systems, by the body needs, desires, by the need to support ourselves economically, finding food, bringing food to the table, a roof, a shelter over our head, health, all of that needs in the physical level somehow create a mask, a camouflage to hide what is the real purpose of being here in the physical universe. And the purpose is to take the chaotic, confining, uh, disturbing reality, all that is full of Egypt, which means confinement and subjugation, and creating redemption in spite and because all the limitations we experience in our daily life. So, because that story is being told, experienced by the life of every human being, and what is the mechanism of defining success? It's not how much money you make. It's not how much respect you get from other people. It's nothing to do with how much you created. Okay, you can be a very fruitful artist or a builder, whatever. What really defines our success every day, every week, every month, a lifetime, every year, it is how much redemption did we achieve? How much did we gain how much freedom did we gain over all the obstacles around us that are part of the story? As we learned in Parashat Vayechi last week, with no pain, no gain, no exile, no redemption, no mistakes, no victories. So if the whole issue is experiencing the confinement, the limitation of Egyptian exile, which every human being has some of it, and overcoming it and experiencing exodus, freedom, happiness, real spiritual growth, in spite and because all what we go through. This sums up a person's life. And that is in every generation, every time, as we said, in the individual level and in the general level, societies. כי כל פרט ופרט מישראל חשוב לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא כמו הכלל כולו, because every individual is important to the Creator like the whole creation. Every individual has a direct connection with the one God of the creation without any mediation. And part of the redemption is to realize that nobody mediates. It's not a teacher, not our parents, or friends, or any leader. They cannot mediate because the moment you have a mediation, somebody mediates, you are not really free because you're not really connected to the Creator Himself. So real freedom, real independence is when each one of us creates his own individual direct connection to the one God, the Creator of the heaven and the earth, and that force that everything is living by. So, ועל כן, לא יגיע אדם למטרתו, טרם שעברו עליו כל הדרכים. A person can never reach his real destination unless he went through all the roads, all the obstacles, all the challenges, and all the illuminations of the names in the Torah. And therefore, this book is called the Book of Names, because how do you know you have achieved Exodus, you've achieved redemption? You can use God's name in a proper way but for enlightenment. And that will be the topic in the coming weeks. סידור הפרשות שבתורה, יש בהם קדושה רבה וסגולה גדולה לכל פרט ופרט ליהנות מסדר המאורות המאירים בזמן הקריאה. And the order of the readings of the parashot in the Torah, there is a very high level of holiness in the order of the parashot, that we read them and we learn them by the correct order according to the times, which means this week Parashat Shemot is the parasha being read during the whole week and on Shabbat. That means that the holiness that is somehow hidden in this parasha is shining this week more than any other parasha. Which means if we study this parasha in another week, it doesn't shine the same way that it shines this special week. So, and therefore that holiness has a special tool of support that is really like, it's like the remedy by the right time. You know, when you get medications, some medication you have to take 3 times a week, some medication you have to take in the morning and in the afternoon, but not around lunch and stuff like this. Here it is, this is the medication, and it is a great support for our spiritual journey, exactly taking it by the code. ומתוך ששובבים תת הם סידור שלהם, and since those 8 weeks שובבים תת are a complete order of like the medications we take in order to heal ourselves and to achieve our individual redemption before we achieve our universal redemption, מתחילת השבייה והשיעבוד של קליפת פרעה מצרים, it's starting from the bondage and the subjugation inside the dark forces of Pharaoh in Egypt, till עד תכלית החופש, till the most extended level of freedom and redemption, which is the second tablets given on Mount Sinai. על כן מסוגלים הם להאיר עם כל המערכת הקדושה והאורות. Therefore, there is a special healing properties to these 8 weeks because they shine with the whole complete system of holiness and lights. שכבר הראו פעולתם בדורות שעברו לאלה מוכנים לקבל, and it is known that it is very helpful connecting to those lights in every generation. And since the last generation, it is very, very known the special help we can get during these 8 weeks. ועל כן מתענים עובדי השם יתברך, and therefore the people really are committed to the spiritual journey. It's very common that people do fasting as a way for spiritual elevation, usually on Mondays and Thursdays every week during these 8 weeks. Today, some, the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, he said that people today are so weak, so when they fast, they become so nervous, so they do more mistakes when they're hungry. So if fasting is making you nervous, so it's not a tool for you. But if fasting, we're talking about fasting from dawn till stars coming out, if that helps you to feel elevated, especially Mondays and Thursdays, and also there are tikkunei ShOVaVIM, there's special prayers that were created by the great Kabbalists, especially in the 18th century, Rashash and so on, of making tikkunim, very focused tikkunim, which means corrections in our souls during this time. especially, but what if you don't want to go that far? So just the spiritual consciousness, studying, learning, and taking some, accepting some rules that during these 8 weeks we will be more devoted to the study, to spiritual work, for our values, for the rules, to keep them and to be much more aware. And when you make the effort from below, you get the support from above. So this is the introduction that Rabbi Ashlag is giving to us for the coming 8 weeks of ShOVaVIM TaT. So let's continue. So when we say ve'ele shmot bnei Yisrael aba'im mitzrayma, et Yaakov ish uveito va'u, so the complete verse number 1, these are the names of the children of Israel coming, still coming, remember, present continuous, to Egypt, et Yaakov ish uveito va'u, with Jacob, each person with his household arrived with them. Okay, so why do we have to mention that? And the answer is, let's find it in the Zohar. Yeah, the Zohar is explaining to us in Zohar HaSulam, verse 65, Rabbi Chia hava yativ kameir de Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Chia was sitting in front of Rabbi Shimon, and they were learning. Amar lo, and he said, Ma chamat oraita lemimnei bno de Yaakov. Why is it so important to count the sons of Jacob coming to Egypt? We see the result. You have Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. These are the names. And then in verse 5, Vayi kol nefesh yotzei erech Yaakov, 70 nefesh. And then how many souls came with Jacob? 70 souls. Okay, 70 souls. So why is it important for us to know there were 70? Amar lo. So he answered, Ma tam 70 velo yatir? What's the reason it's 70 and not another number? Amar le lekabil ayin umin diinun be'alma v'inun havo uma yechida lekovel kulon. Which means, translation, there are 70 people coming with Jacob. Whoever studies the wisdom of reincarnation, especially the way Rabbi Isaac Luria explains it, he says that when we are talking about human souls, there are divisions inside the soul and all the souls, because all humans, basically their souls are coming from Adam and Eve. That Adam and Eve were not physical entities. They started as spiritual entities that contain all human souls. However, they sinned. And the result is that they spread all over, and they have that tikkun that we all need to go down into the exile in order to redeem the holy sparks when we redeem ourselves. And basically that is the name of the game. So when we are talking about the division of the souls in Adam, there are few divisions. There's a prime division which is into 12, then there's a secondary division into 70, then there's a tertiary division into 600,000, and it goes like this. So the point is like this, that when we read about 70, says the Zohar, 70 is corresponding to the 70 nations of the world, which means they were a whole nation, those 70 coming with Jacob, that they are basically this symbolize the need for tikkun of all 70 nations, which means all of humanity. Which means, as we said, the message is not just for one nation. It is a cosmic message for a cosmic transformation. All of humanity must find sooner or later what is the game, what is the story, that we are here to basically elevate ourselves, redeem ourselves from the darkness, and generate enlightenment. Okay. So the story continues. Chapter 1 in Exodus, verse 6. וימות יוסף וכל אחיו וכל דורו, and Joseph died, and his brothers, and the whole generation. And the children of Israel multiplied very much, and the earth was being fulfilled with their numbers. And then verse 8, ויקום מלך חדש על מצרים אשר לא ידע את יוסף. אשר לא ידע את יוסף. And a new king came to rule Egypt. He had no idea about Joseph. So that's on a superficial level. He doesn't know who's Joseph. He has no recollection of how helpful Joseph was for the kingdom of Egypt, and how Egypt had become an empire, not just in a local area of that corner of Africa, but an empire that has a lot of power, not just on a bigger range over Africa, but extending also into the Middle East, Asia, all the way till Babylon and Turkey of today. So the Hittites. And this king, he looks at the multiplying Israelites, and he says, there are so many, they can become a fifth column so easily. If there's going to be a war, they are going to go against us. So let's be smarter than them and subjugate them so they don't subjugate us. So Rabbi ShOVaVIM TaT says, Pharaoh and Egypt, they are the narrow place. Who's the narrow place? The body. So we are talking about one of the ways to look at it is that the soul of a human being is coming into his body since he's a baby. Meanwhile, the body and the negative side, the dark side in each person says, oh, those forces are getting stronger and stronger. They might take over the body and overrule our dominion. So how do we subjugate the soul before the soul becomes strong enough? וישימו עליו שרי מיסים למען ענותו בסבלותם. Verse 11, and they put taxes upon the Israelites, and also ויבן ערי מסכנות, they built something like concentration camps at Pitom ואת Ramses. There were two great concentration camps for the Israelites. One was called Pitom, the other one is called Ramses. Rabbi ShOVaVIM TaT, why do we need to know those names? He says because Pitom, the name Pitom can be read as Pitehom, the mouth of the ravine, which means one of the ways for the body to subjugate us is to make us be so hungry that our mouth will be like a ravine. It doesn't matter how much you eat, you're never satiated. That's one way our darkness, the dark side inside us, subjugates us by becoming, and that's a general name, becoming addicted to food, to drinks, alcohol, all kinds of consumption. And the name of the other place is Ramses. Ramses, everybody knows, was the name of a very common name amongst the pharaohs. However, Ramses is also in Hebrew bad tummy, which means some people eat to put something in their mouth and some people eat to put something in their belly. So here it is. That's that's a symbol of all what the subjugation for materialism that people go through. The more they torture the Israelites, the more they multiply. And then comes the story that the king of Egypt, he gets this vision that a boy is going to be born, is going to redeem the Israelites. and take the power back from Egypt. So he makes a decree that all the boys being born should be thrown into the Nile and be killed. However, the Jewish midwives, the Israelite midwives, they do not allow that to happen. And then there's a story, chapter 2, verse 1, וילך איש מבית לוי ויקח את בת לוי, and ותר האישה, and then it says, it speaks, ותלד בן, and the woman got pregnant, and she gave birth to a baby boy. She hid him for 3 months. She saw that he was good, that he was complete. And that's what Rabbi Zohar explains to us. And she saw him that it was good. It's the same expression when God said, let there be light, and God saw that the light was good, which means that boy is going to be a light for his people and for the whole world. And that's the birth of Moses. So she realized, the mother, he has a special soul. So she hid him for 3 months. And after 3 months, she could not hide him anymore. Verse 3, the Egyptian officers were looking for him. So ותיקח לו תיבת גורמה, she made from papyrus, she made an ark, the famous ark. She covered it with clay and with tar. She put the boy inside the ark, and she put him in the Nile. One of the most famous stories. And the story goes on that the daughter of Pharaoh, she came to the Nile to wash. She sees the boy, she feels for him, she knows it's a Hebrew boy, she adopts that boy, and she calls him Moshe. Vatomer ki min hamayim meshitihu. And she calls him Moshe, which means in Hebrew, Moshe means somebody who was being pulled out of the water. So there's a debate. And the debate, let's see, Dazkeni Balea Tosfot. You know what? The debate is, how could she call him Moshe because that's a Hebrew name? She was an Egyptian. What is the story about giving him a Hebrew name? So there's a few answers. One of them says, yes, she gave him an Egyptian name, but it means in Hebrew Moshe. So we don't remember his Egyptian name, but we remember the meaning of that name, and that's the name that everybody calls him, Moshe, Moses. However, the Sforno, another very ancient commentator, says she called him Moshe because Moshe means somebody was pulling someone out of drowning. Okay, somebody drowns, you pull him out, that's the verb is limshot. Okay, so the Sforno says, ותקרא שמו משה ממלט ומשה את אחרים מצרה. He's the one that is going to redeem others from trouble. And that's the meaning of the word Moshe, redeeming, the one who's going to be the redeemer. Okay? She redeemed him by pulling him out of the Nile, but she knew that he's going to be the redeemer. And where does he grow? In the household of Pharaoh. What a weird story. Still, there are stories like this all along history. Now, but there's another secret over here. In this parasha especially, all of them, all over the Torah, you have few layers of encoding of information, of wisdom. The word Moshe in Hebrew is made of 3 letters, Mem, Shin, Hey. First of all, this is the 5th name of the 72 names of God. Just change the order of the letters. That's Mem, Hey, Shin, the name for healing. And we know, what does it mean, healing? Somebody who got sick, he's being called by the sages Asuro Shel HaMelech, the prisoner of the king. Who's the king? The king of the universe. So, in the physical world, physical mortal kings, when they think that a person becoming a threat to the peace of the kingdom, so you put them in a physical jail, which means you need to have a building with thick walls, with very strong guards, and you put inside whoever is a risk for the kingdom. Okay? However, the King of all kings, the Creator, how does he protects everybody from somebody that made crime? Oh, he gets him sick. And when the person is sick, he's confined to his home, especially in the word is ratuk lemitato. He's chained into his bed. I've never seen somebody in the hospital chained to his bed. Criminals, they chain them to the bed because they might run away. But most people are very sick. You don't see any chains. These are invisible chains that by being confined to your bed, you basically in a dungeon. Healing somebody is lifting that sick person out from his dungeon. Oh, this dungeon does not need walls. He can get out anyway. Okay, so we see there's another meaning for the name Moshe. It's about healing. That healing means getting somebody who's in trouble. Okay, he's in the darkness, and the darkness affects his or her body. So the body becomes a jail while the person is still alive, and he can't go anywhere because he's confined to his bed. Okay? But there's a different meaning, much deeper. Moshe is also the same letters of the word Hashem, the name. Jewish people, many times, instead of mentioning God's names, and he has many of them, okay? God's name, there are many of them, so instead of saying the name of God, because you're not supposed to mention God's name in vain, so usually you say Hashem, which the meaning of the word Hashem is the name. So when you say Hashem, everybody knows that it's the name with a big T and a big N. It's like the name of the creator of the universe, the name of that deity that generates, that creates, that moves, that sustains the whole universe. Okay? God. So instead of saying God, in Hebrew you say Hashem, the name. Same letters as Moshe. So we see that something about Moses is about us learning how to connect to the names of God. Why does God have so many names? So let's see. ויהי בימים ההם, so we're reading verse 11 in chapter 1. ויגדל משה ויצא אל אחיו וירא בסבלותם. Moses grows up and he comes out to see his brothers, which means he knows he is a Hebrew. וירא בסבלותם, he sees their suffering, he can feel, he can empathize with their suffering. וירא איש מצרי מכה איש, and how do we know? וירא איש מצרי מכה איש עברי מאחיו. He sees an Egyptian man beating up a Hebrew man. ויפן כה וכה, that's verse 12, and he turns here and there. וירא כי איש, he sees, nobody sees. ויח את המצרי ויטמנהו בחול. He hits the Egyptian and buries him, hides him in the sand. Verse 13, ויצא ביום השני, והנה שני אנשים עברים ניצים. And he comes out on the second day and he sees two Hebrews fighting with each other. ויאמר לרשע, and he says to the evil one, למה תכה רעך? Why are you beating your friend? Verse 14, ויאמר, so the bad one is answering Moses, מי שמך לאיש שר ושופט עלינו? Who put you, who appointed you to be our judge and our minister and a governor. הלהרגני אתה אומר כאשר הרגת את המצרי? Are you going to kill me with a saying like you killed the Egyptian? What happened over here? It was very simple till now. Moses sees an Egyptian beating up an Israelite, and he hits that Egyptian and buries him in the ground because the Egyptian died. Okay, what can be so complicated? Why making it complicated? And the answer is that the Zohar, the teacher, especially Rabbi Zohar, is teaching us. He said, what does the Israelite says to Moses? You're saying to kill me. You're going to kill me with words like you killed the Egyptian, which means I know that you killed the Egyptian with a holy name. Which holy name? There are two opinions. One of them says Kaf Hey Taf. That's the 8th name of the 72 names of God. Okay, why? Because Takeh is the same letters as Kaf Hey Taf. Different order. What? Beating. When we use that name, you can remove negativity. So Moses used that name to remove the negativity of that Egyptian. And the problem is that very rarely you have a person that has only negativity. The moment Moses got all the negativity out, nothing was left, and the Egyptian died. So Moses did not mean to kill him, he just wanted to remove his negativity. But most people, the moment you remove their negativity, and it's impossible, every person should remove his own negativity, then the feeling, the result is so hilarious. Because that's what is true redemption. So here we have that manifestation that it is all about that Moses is teaching us how to heal, how to redeem. By these famous two names, Mem Hey Shin and Kaf Hey Taf, that we're going to relate to it in Parashat Beshalach, the splitting of the Red Sea, because that's the place of that secret. But it appears already over here, already very early in the story, Moses is already aware of the usage of some of the most powerful names. But then Pharaoh hears that Moses killed an Egyptian. Moses runs away for his life. And after 40 years of exile and wandering from one country to another, he comes to Midian. And he comes to the well in Midian. ולכהן מדיין 7 בנות, and the priest of Midian has 7 daughters. And they basically, because he has no sons, so they are managing the sheep. And then, of course, because they were ladies, the other shepherds do not allow them to approach the well. So suddenly, Moses comes to help them. They think he's an Egyptian man because he looks like an Egyptian. He's dressed as an Egyptian. Finally, he marries, these were the daughters of Yitro, and he marries Tzipporah, and he has 2 sons from her. Then we go to verse 23. ויהי בימים הרבים ההם וימות מלך מצרים. And in those days, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites were really suffering, really in torture, in pain. Verse 24, וישמע אלוהים את נאקתם, ויזכור אלוהים את בריתו, את אברהם, את יצחק ואת יעקב. וירא אלוהים את בני ישראל, וידע אלוהים. You have many verbs right now with the word Elohim, which is one of the holy names of God, but this name is being used when we are talking about judgment. What does that mean? And here we come to a very important concept. The next story, I didn't forget, but the next story is chapter 3, verse 1. ומשה היה רואה את צאן יתרו חותנו, כהן מדיין, וינהג אחר הצאן אחר מדבר, ויבוא אל הר האלוהים חורבה. Moses became a shepherd after he married Jethro's daughter, And then he works with his father-in-law, and he's taking care of the sheep. And he goes to the mountain of God, the Mount Horeb, known more as Mount Sinai. וירא מלאך אדוני אליו. And then the angel of God revealed to him in the fire. So, that's the story of the burning bush. So till today, we spoke about Elohim, and now we're speaking about God, Youdkevitch, the Tetragrammaton. What is this about? It's like, why so many names? We just started, we have 2 names already of God, and this is not the end of the list. ויאמר משה, אסור נא ויראה את המראה הגדול הזה. And Moses says, let me go off the way and see that special phenomenon. And why is it that the bush is not burning himself down? Verse 4, וירא אדוני כי שר לראות. And God saw that Moses came to see. ויקרא אליו אלוהים מתוך הצנש. So God, Elohim, is calling him from the bush. But we said, who saw God, Tetragrammaton God? Why there's so many names in one story? You know, there's a theory that the Torah has few sources. There's a source that uses the Tetragrammaton, there's a source using Elohim, so on and so forth. It doesn't fit the way it's written. Why? They replaced a scribe in the middle of the story. No. We learn that the different names of God, and that's what's important about achieving true lasting redemption. Achieving true lasting redemption depends on something very important. There is one God. God is endless. The Kabbalists don't even call him by any name. They just refer to the Creator as Ha-En Sof, the endless. So what are all the other names? All the other names explain to us, every Kabbalist, especially Rabbi Ashlag, the names basically symbolize our state of perception of God, which means God is endless power that sustains everything, from a living creature till a stone or a small tiny object. All of them, without being infused by the power of God, they cannot exist. So, what's that connect? It's connecting to us. Every human being has many spiritual layers of consciousness, and we go through these layers, and our redemption is by finding the deepest and the most holistic, complete layer. Okay, the one who's complete. What does it mean, complete? The different names of God represent different ways we perceive the Creator. Some people perceive the Creator as a vengeant, angry, vicious God. Why? He's always, you can't, you shouldn't, you're not allowed, you're impure, you're born impure, you'll be ever doomed to be impure, and so suffer, accept the suffering with love, and maybe after you die, you will inherit the heavens. So a person that is raised with that thing, how does he see God? He sees God as a vengeful entity, like a very old person that is very impatient and is just waiting to punish you with his wrath. When a person experiences God as a judgment, usually the name being used is Elohim. However, other people, they have a more elevated state of mind. From hard spiritual work, they realize that God is judging me according to the way I judge myself, and I judge him. Which means, when I see God's help in every aspect, and I realize that God's giving is eternal, and He's giving eternally, and His love cannot be changed, then I'm using not the name Elohim, but the name of the Tetra. It is called the Tetragrammaton. Okay, that's another perception. When you perceive God this way, you perceive God as the God of love and light. And there is another perception. Okay? And we see that when in what the verses we just read, verse 4 in chapter 3, Vaya Adonai kisa lirot, and God saw that Moses stepped off the way to see. But the word to step off the way is called sar. Sar is a number. Sar is a number to, in Hebrew, every word is a number because every letter is a number. Samech is 60, Reish is 200. Sar. Okay? Got out of his way to come and see. And the Arizal is explaining to us that 260 is 10 times the Tetragrammaton, 10 Sephirot, 10 levels of revelation. And therefore, when God reveals himself to Moses and he says, I am the Lord of your father, the Lord of Abraham, the Lord of Isaac, the Lord of Jacob. And then it says that God is telling Moses, go and tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Who doesn't know that sentence, let my people go? And Moses is arguing. Why is he arguing? Because like all of us, Moses is stuck in a concept, perception, as Rabbi Azakloria is teaching us, that because the exile is in order to correct the perception of Youdkevitch, the God of unconditional love. Therefore, the exile should last 260 years. And that's hinted in Sar Lirot, that word. But what God is telling Moses, you made a mistake. Yes, the correction is connected to the holy name Youdkevitch, which is the perception of the loving, embracing God that feeds unconditionally all his creatures. But because the negativity of Egypt was so intense that it changed the whole universe with many layers of perception, the power of Egypt was so powerful with so much darkness. Egypt was the world capital of dark magic, of worshipping the idols of evil. The main god is called Ra. Ra in Hebrew means evil. Okay? So, because of their power, explains to us Rabbi Azakloria, there was no way to connect to the God of love. You know how it is when you live in a society that everybody's angry, everybody's judging everybody, everybody's upset about everybody. Even the nicest people living or being brought up in such an environment, they become, no, you don't want it, but you become very judgmental. You become very upset about people. You can't embrace people with love because you're always judging them because that's how you're being raised. Home, school, everywhere. It's always about you. You must be wrong. You must be doing something wrong. So when people have that perception of the the God of vengeance, that God is not on your side. You're always in the wrong side. God is on the side of the powerful ones, and you're not one of them. Do you understand that this is what exile is about? You can't trust anyone. There's no one there for you. Nobody loves you. Exile is not where you are physically. Exile is the way you perceive reality. There was no way to perceive God as the unconditional, loving power that runs the whole universe because the darkness of the Egyptian was so strong. You know, we see it today. We see today, you just, the moment you get addicted to the media, and the media is always in doomsday state of mind. It's like the world is falling apart. Everything is so dark. So you become very nervous consuming the media. No hope. No, hope will be only when we kill, destroy the old systems. That's very kind of communist. Let's destroy the old world and build out of anarchy. Let's build something new. So first we have to destroy. That's a God, the Lord of vengeance. That is darkness. Okay? Understanding that God is always there for you and with unconditional love, no matter who you are, that idea was not born yet. The whole process of redemption is about the giving birth of that concept, which is symbolized by the name Youdkevitch. However, because it's not available, because everything is so much in darkness, the name of God, or that consciousness of unconditional love, was hidden in another layer, which is the name of God that is called Eheye. So, wrongly translated, I am. So when Moses is asking, who is sending me? And God says, Eheye asher ehye, wrongly it is translated into I am whoever I am. That's not what it says. Eheye is one of the names of God. This is the name of God that is even above the Tetragrammaton. That's called the mother. When you feel that God is your mother, He's feeding you. Yeah, he puts the limits to you also, but more He's nourishing you. That name is Eheye, number 21. So 21 times 10, 21, correcting 10 Sefirot, 10 level, that's 210. And they were standing there, Moses and the burning bush, and God's message is given to him 210 years after the beginning of the exile. And therefore, when Moses realizes that, finally he accepts the mission to go and pull the Israelites out of their dungeon. All of those names we see in the coming parashot, it's all about training us to create the perception of redemption. We'll finish with, it's inevitable reading this parasha without reading this verse 96 in Zohar Sulam. Rabbi Shimon zakaf yado levacha. Rabbi Shimon raised his hands and he cried. Ve'amar, and he said, Vaiman deizdaman ba'u zimna. Woe to those who would live in the time of the last redemption. Ve'zakachu lakeiman deizdaman v'ishtakach ba'u zimna. And happy is the person who would live at that time, and vaiman deizdaman ba'u zimna begin and will be with emunah, with the right, with faith and connection. We're talking about these days, and especially the coming months, which means we're talking about the 8 coming months, especially in this year, 5783. We are talking about very crucial time in the history of humanity. The whole history of humanity is going right now to start taking a different course. And again, the whole course is about redemption. And what is redemption? Perception of reality. Perception of a reality that love and the love of God towards His creatures is stronger than anything else, even stronger than our mistakes. And therefore, every human being deserves to be treated with love and with embracement and protection. And that does not mean you are not responsible for your deeds. Okay? That doesn't mean you can go and do whatever you want. You can go into a store and take as much just because you are hungry. No, this is not what it's stated in or on the two tablets. Do not steal. But I'm hungry. Yeah. What does it say? Do not steal unless you're hungry? No. What didn't you understand from do not steal? But why? With God's love, you'll find a way. Stealing is not a way, not even killing. And we'll see as it unfolds in front of us how the whole story is about connecting to the Creator and learning how to adjust our perception of reality. And the more we adjust it, the more we use the names of God. It's not that the names of God are different gods. It's not polytheism. There's only one endless God that is everybody's God. Okay? That loves everybody unconditionally and shares with everybody endlessly. However, how much can we receive? Rabbi Shemot is saying, in our generation especially, there will be so much bliss. Whoever connects to emunah, to real spiritual connection, the greatest times in history. We're facing it in the coming months. We're going to see so many changes in society, around us, in perception. It's so powerful what's happening. So you should be rejoiced. However, whoever insists to be judgmental, they are thieves and they are liars and they are killers and it's all, we just have to go there and punish all the bad guys. That's very judgmental. That's very hateful. That's being a slave. And anger is the worst of them all. It's an idol worshipping and slavery. And we have to learn how to get out of it. Okay, good luck for all of us. Thank you so much.